minutes. Hey Phil, this sounds a bit better so far, I think.
How's that?
Yay!
Oh,
yeah.
Yay!
Okay, everybody like this video and comment down below to celebrate hashtag the robots have lost.
Let's get an applause in the chat. I want to see some hand claps.
Yeah, put the hands in the chat, everybody.
So we beat Skylabs.
We beat
or Skynet. I mean, yeah.
Skynet,
yeah. What happened is when I tried to connect since I have Restream, it had something cached, so I was using Safari instead.
Oh.
Safari wasn't working with the crap, so I'm using Firefox, and it works fine.
Gotcha.
Just the browser.
It's always the browser. It's always the man. Well, apologies to kind of cut you off, mid sentence there earlier, but if we can circle back.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been pen testing for coming up on 10 years, cybersecurity for 18. I've actually taught ethical hacking at a community college for almost 4 years. I speak at conferences, do conference workshops. I wrote a book called The Pen Tester Blueprint that guides you on how to become a pen tester, all the prerequisite knowledge and all that. So that's kind of pretty much it in a nutshell.
That's awesome. And what, kind of drew you to write the Pen Tester Blueprint and kind of, start training people to get into cybersecurity?
The Pen Tester Blueprint was based on the first day of class lecture I gave each semester on becoming a pen tester. I started teaching in January 2018, and I had some of the other adjunct professors and professors in the college ask me to come talk to their class about becoming a pen tester. I would give that talk there. By November 2018, it turned into a conference talk, and I gave it for the first time at B-Sides DFW, and then several conferences since then. I was in the Tribe of Hackers Red Team book, and Wiley Publishing asked me if I'd be interested in writing a book, and I'd kind of thought for a while that my talk, The Pen Tester Blueprint, might make a good book. So that's where the idea for the book came from.
I was trying to find the book real quick so I could advertise it, but it wasn't over on my stack. It's somewhere. This is what happens when I finish books. I end up losing them, and I'm like, oh, crap.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so, up to this point, what would you say has been probably the most rewarding experience with, your whole experience in cybersecurity so far?
Helping others get started. Teaching, because I've had several of my students that came through my class that are pen testers. And, I've worked on some, what was kind of cool too, I was working in one company, and I had two of my students that were working on a project because I was the red team lead, and we outsourced our web app pen testing. And so two of my students were working on some pen tests for us, some web app pen tests. So it's really cool to be communicating with some students that they're actually working on pen tests for a company. And so, yeah, it's helping others get started. One of the things I kind of did along the way was, I'm kind of a competitive person because I compete in powerlifting. And I used to compete in the open division, which is basically no age limit or whatever, and compete against people younger than myself. And as I got older, I had to compete in my own age division. And, I kind of learned as far as trying to be a hacker, be the best, that's kind of tough because, new people coming in and, they're willing to stay up later. Sometimes it's easier for younger people to stay up later and all this, and just the whole competitive thing. I kind of thought, really what I need to do is focus my energies on where I'm best at, because I was good at mentoring and helping others. And so that's kind of where I put my focus on and quit worrying about being the best pen tester and just focus on trying to help other people. And it's been very rewarding.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And actually, we have somebody down in the comments saying Parker Dot. He runs a Twitter space, and he's awesome in the community. He's down to do a giveaway for a copy of the Pen Tester Blueprint. So that's exciting. So if you're watching, stay tuned. We will do a giveaway as that goes. So, thank you, Parker. That's very exciting. And great opportunity for folks.
Mm-hmm. And I can, as somebody who has read the book cover to cover, It is a fantastic book for anybody wanting to be a pen tester. There is a ton of resources and information in there. Like it is a must read. And I'm not just saying that.
Yeah, the information in the book was based on, because since I gave the talk the first time at a conference, I've kind of modified the talk over the years to include things that I'd kind of learned along the way, things that's helped other people out get started. So not only is it based on my experience, it's based on what had helped others as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you also have a podcast, The Hacker Factory, and it is phenomenal and a must listen, I would say, amongst InfoSec pros. What got you into making a podcast, and how has that been thus far?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to go even further back, not necessarily a podcast, but back in 2018, I became a Bug Crowd ambassador. And the first part of 2019, they asked me to do a webinar series. So doing the webinars kind of got me interested in doing a podcast. Alyssa Miller, Chloe Mastagi, and myself, we were doing a podcast called the Uncommon Journey Podcast. And then it got to where, it's trying to coordinate three people's schedules plus a guest got kind of difficult, and everyone's busy schedules. And they came up and asked if we want to do our own podcast. So I said, yeah, sure. They asked me, how would you like to do the Hacker Maker podcast? And I wanted it to be titled something different than my stream or whatever. And so I said, how about the Hacker Factory? So I got started with that. And as with a lot of other things I do, it's trying to help people get started. And I think it's helpful for someone that whether you're trying to break into the industry or if you're just interested in pen testing, you don't work in that area. I think it's kind of good for those types of folks. And it's, a lot of like I said, the mission was to help people get started. It's been a lot of fun, and it's interesting how each episode, kind of resonates with people differently. So some podcasts, someone may have similar experience, and it may resonate more with someone than someone else. So it's just kind of interesting how that works. The different episodes inspire people, and that's one of the goals of the show.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. We have a comment, and one of my favorite facts is that you do powerlifting.
Yeah.
That's cool. We have a comment here from Andrew. Are you more of a traditional stance deadlift or sumo? And that is actually a very interesting question.
Yeah, I use the conventional deadlift stance. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'd be down to hear your comments on the benefits, but with that and a sumo, because I just kind of do it. I don't really know the benefits in your case.
The benefits are really going to be based on your mechanics. If you're built to deadlift, you really don't need to use a sumo stance, although it can still be helpful. But one of the things the sumo stance does is you're using a little less lower back, you're using more hips, shorter distance to deadlift. And, it's, like I said, less lower back and less stress on your back. And so that's kind of a lot of reason people do it, just that shorter distance. And, some people with kind of shorter arms, it's harder to deadlift, and that kind of helps their biomechanics if they can do the sumo stance. But it's kind of interesting. People can get really extremely wide on the stance because, I've been competing in powerlifting since '84, and just seeing how wide, someone like Ed Cohen, one of the best of all time powerlifters, his sumo stance is kind of almost in between the conventional, and then you got a lot of the other people that that do a sumo stance really wide. And another thing it helps is in some competitions, there are equipped divisions where you can wear deadlift suits, bench shirts, and all that. And it's a stance that's more conducive to someone using equipment, because the equipped deadlift, you don't get as much help out of the deadlift suit as you do like the bench shirt and squat suits, but it helps you more. Most people in the deadlift suits don't usually get maybe 30 or 40 pounds out of deadlift suit, but if you deadlift sumo, there are people that get 100 pounds out of their deadlift suit.
That's nuts. I don't even know what deadlifting suits are. I'm not going to lie to you.
It's basically looks like a wrestling singlet, but it's like super reinforced. There's some suits are made out of the heavy duty canvas, and some of it's made out of like a really strong polyester. And some of the materials they use for those suits are the same materials they use like in bulletproof vests. You know, kind of the coverings, not the Kevlar bulletproof piece that's inside, but it's like the same type of material that they hold the Kevlar and all that layers in within. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah. When they originally created that equipment, the bench shirt, squat suits, and deadlift suits back like in the 80s, mid 80s or so is when that came out. It was mainly the bench press shirt was to really just protect your shoulders and your pecs to keep you from tearing a pec or injuring your shoulder, just kind of protective support. But like anything else, just like golf clubs, you know, they make golf clubs work better so you can hit a ball further. And so like any kind of athletic equipment, over the years, they've made the shirts and different suits where they help out even more. I mean, there's people that are getting 300 pounds or more out of a bench press shirt. Maybe they can bench 300 pounds, but they can throw in a bench shirt and bench press 600 pounds. And so for me, whenever I got back into powerlifting, and because I got back into competing at the end of 2003, when I got started back, there was not an unequipped or raw powerlifting. It was all in suits. So that's the way you had to compete. About 2006 or 2007, raw powerlifting, where basically you could wear a belt, but no kind of special suits. And that's when I kind of switched over to that because I liked it better. The other felt too much like it's cheating. And like on my bench shirt, I got it helped me bench like 125, 120 pounds more than what I could do without the shirt.
Wow.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. How do you how do you train with that? Are there specific things that you have to do to train, you know, with equipment versus off? Like, is there, you know, are there different kinds of exercises that you have to hit in certain circumstances to be prepared for that? Or can you kind of just, you know, throw the equipment on and start going after it?
Well, to train, to lift that specific way, you need to train a specific way. Like for instance, for the bench press shirts, the shirt helps you on the low end of the bench, like off your chest, the first 6 inches, so people don't have to work their chest as much. So it's more important to work the lockout. So they'll do partial bench presses where they'll do like board presses, where they'll take like several 2x6s and stack them on top of each other for different levels of boards to work the lockout strength. So that shirt helps the low end. So you work on the lockout to get even stronger on the shirt. But if you're not working your lockout, you're not going to be able to lift as much because that shirt helps you lift so much more. Once you get like half the way, 3/4 of the way up, if your triceps and lockout's not strong enough, it's going to be a lot more difficult to lock out. So the more you can lock out, the more you can do in a shirt. It's just the whole crazy in the way you bench is kind of odd too. With the, you know, a normal bench press, you come like right below your pecs. With a shirted bench press, you're like touching your stomach pretty much. Oh. And the shirt is so tight that you have to take the bar really low to be able to bench in a shirt. It's really, really crazy.
I want to point out to a comment, and this is something I think I've even asked you before in like little conversations you and I have had. How do you, Conda in the chat asks, how do you balance your time between your career and all these other activities? Because if nobody knows everything that you do, I mean, give like a condensed list of that and then explain how you do it. Because for me, it's mind blowing.
Yeah. And things have kind of changed a little bit since I'm not teaching. I don't have that commitment, but up until I haven't streamed in a while, I kind of took a break from that. I was actually getting burnt out. And, you know, I've got my day job, you know, I spend 8 hours a day pen testing. And then I do a podcast. So I'm recording podcast episodes. It's a weekly podcast. So sometimes I'll record several episodes in a week. And kind of what I did to prepare for December is throughout the year, I'm usually speaking at a lot of conferences. So like last year and the year before that, I spoke at about 26 to 28 different conferences. And some of the conferences I did talks and workshops. Some conferences I did 2 workshops or 2 talks. So out of those 20 some odd conferences, I did more than one activity, a lot of them. So doing that, along with doing some of the streaming and being on other people's podcasts and streams like that, it stays pretty busy in the conference stuff. So honestly, I get pretty burnt out. So like down towards December, I started kind of planning to get all my podcast episodes recorded in November, so I didn't have to deal with that. I wanted to make November easier. There were less conferences going on, so that did slow down, although there were more conferences this past year than there was in 2020 in December, because like December of 2020, I think I did like a thing for SANS, and that was it in December as far as conferences goes. But this past December, there were probably like 2 or 3 different conferences that I spoke at virtually. So it gets pretty tough. I mean, you have to really build in breaks. One of the things I would have to say too, recommend, is you got to learn to say no, which I'm very bad at. Someone asks me to do something, I usually do it. One of the things, an example, I did like some workshops for women's cyber jiu-jitsu last year. I did one, I think August, or maybe it was September, October, and I was supposed to do a third one in November. The third one in November, I had got completely built out, and even though I'd committed to it, I had to go back and tell them, say, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this because I wasn't able to complete the course. So like I said, I can be bad about that. I got to get better about managing my time, because I was on the verge of burnout. I guess I really technically probably was burnout. I'm still trying to get over it. So it's pretty tough. And one of the things I say is pick a few things that you can do and do really well and stick with it. That's kind of like when I added streaming. I was already doing a podcast, and I added a stream on that. And the commitment of the stream on top of all the other stuff got to be a little much. So you need to take breaks in there, and I just didn't really take breaks soon enough. And this year I need to do a better job of doing that.
Go ahead. You look so.
I don't know. It's like as you're talking, it's like I'm coming up with stuff, but I want to point this out, to everybody in the chat that's watching. I think we have 7 to 10 people watching now. Even somebody like Phillip Wylie here suffers from burnout. It happens to everybody. So I don't want people thinking like, it never happens to these people that, are big names in the industry or anything like that. Like, it literally happens to everybody. And this is a perfect example of, like Phil was saying, make sure you're taking breaks for yourself. Don't overload your plate. Don't do so much thinking that you can handle and tackle it, because then before you know it, you're burnt out, and it can literally end up leading to you. Some people I've even heard of, they get so burnt out they don't even want to be in the field anymore because it's just that bad. So it's like, this is just a very good example of taking breaks, trying not to burn yourself out, and knowing your limits.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I haven't done a good job with it, but I mean, a lot of people, someone else, a good friend of mine, Chloe Mistagi, she has a good talk on burnout, and she's burnt herself out because, like myself, she has a hard time telling people no when they ask her to speak at conferences and do different things like that. So yeah, you just have to, one of the things I say now, if you're just getting early in your career, you're just starting to do things, make sure to build in some breaks and take some time away from it, do some other activities. I mean, for me, I'm not really into gaming, so my hobbies are cybersecurity. So that kind of, you kind of get burnt out. And one of the things John Strand mentioned a while back on one of their streams was talking about, find other interests outside of cybersecurity. So find some other things to do to take a break. And that's where I find sometimes finding things to do when I take breaks, because this is kind of my hobby. I got my lifting, and then I love to watch movies. So, like in December, I've been focusing more on going to movies and stuff, and just trying to take time away from things. And also too, kind of, I do a lot of mentoring too. So it's like balancing the mentoring, because I really slowed that down. I mean, anytime people have questions and ask me questions on LinkedIn, I'm pretty quick to fill it out, but pretty quick to reply. But I had someone in December wanting me to do a resume review, and I told them, get back with me in January. And one of the things I ran into for a while, I was doing some mentoring for Battleship, and Battleship did this group mentoring, and they had the Saturday pen testing mentoring that I was doing. And so that was kind of a mistake that I agreed to that, because they finally discontinued group mentoring and changed the way they were doing things, which kind of came at a good time, because now 2 of my only days off And, there's weekends that I present at conferences or teach conference workshops, and I'll still continue to do that. But like mentoring and some of those things, I've kind of tried to limit on the weekends, because I was having to come home from the day I was doing the mentoring like at 6 p.m. Maybe it's 5 p.m. Yeah, because I think it was 6 p.m. Eastern. So I had to be home online by 5 p.m. So I was out doing something. I have a good friend of mine that's, 2.5 hours away from me, and I went up to see him one Saturday. And so I had to come back early because I had to be online to stream for this. And it just really, those instances like that, it makes you not wanting to do it, because what free time you do have, it's, just time that you slated to not be doing this type of stuff, interferes with it. And you just really don't want to do it.
Yeah, I can see how that very quickly can kind of get to be a tough situation. And powerlifting, I feel like, is probably a good thing outside of the field. It's physical activity, so it kind of gets the blood pumping. How much of an impact has it had on, on mitigating and I guess trying to get back after burnout? How much does an activity like that help out?
It helps a lot. It's a good stress reliever. Even back to my IT years, I had some situations where things were super stressful, and that was like one of the only things that kind of helped me maintain my mental health. It was just a way to release stress. And like during the first part of the pandemic, when gyms shut down, part of my way to get release was just to go on walks. I would go walking at night, and one of the things, if anyone looks up like my Instagram page, you'll see back in 2020, there was a lot of frog pictures and rabbit pictures. And I just really enjoyed being out in nature. We'd walk at night and we'd see toads and owls and squirrels, not squirrels, but rabbits and other kind of wildlife, which was meditative and helped relieve stress. So bringing that up, that's one thing people really need, some kind of way to relieve stress.
Yeah. Is that something that, like, you actively mentor people, throughout the course and stuff like that, kind of helping them find those kinds of things that help them reduce burnout as well?
I haven't really worked much with that. I give a little bit of advice on people in those type of areas, but most of the focus is typically usually around, career advice. I have people that I've kind of mentored long term where they're in jobs, know what they're doing. They'll periodically ask me, how do you deal with that? And I may give some advice around that in those ways. One of the things I'd also say too, if you're doing there's a lot of the different things you're interested in, find something that you out of all those things you're doing, if you're doing content creation, speaking at conferences, doing all this, find something and really focus on, put more effort on one of those things that you like the best, because it's hard to do everything. One of the things I'm seeing, because one of the things that I kind of wished I would have done earlier on is the content creation. And then once you try to get, into that, you got other things going on. It's kind of hard to balance. And that's one of the things I've been trying to debate on, whether I'm going to continue to do my stream or do more content creation. Because I feel like sometimes if I made YouTube videos, it'd probably be more helpful than the streams, because trying to, stream weekly plus do that gets kind of tough and you spread yourself thin. And I think sometimes if you can't, maybe what you're putting out may be helpful, but sometimes if you put more effort into it and narrow your focus, then you'll get less burnout and put up better quality material. Yeah,
I can absolutely echo. Like, content creation is quite a lot. Especially, the more you're trying to pack into a video, it can balloon the to-do list for each video very quickly. I think, whatever. That is its own rabbit hole entirely. But yeah, I echo that sentiment 1000%. So, I'm kind of curious on your thoughts just on red teaming, the industry, and kind of some of the things that you see people doing. What are some of the, I guess, best things that you see people doing in pen testing, and what would you say are some mistakes that incoming pen testers tend to do?
Well, I think some of the things that could be misconceptions, you have to be careful who you listen to and get information from, because there's lots of Udemy courses out there, lots of YouTube courses, and some of those people may not necessarily know what they're doing. I kind of experienced that a while back with someone that's does training for a company, and I heard them misspeak about what pen testing is. And so a lot of times people trying to get in the industry, they think it's all like adversary emulation, and it's not. That's more like your red team operations is more adversary emulation. Pen testing, you've got a limited amount of time, so you're trying to go through there, find all the vulnerabilities you can find of whatever can be exploiting everything that you can find, so you're not able to be quiet. So that's for red team activities. So I would say that's one of the things to keep in mind there when you're learning and stuff. Some people ask if you have to have this kind of work in a certain role before you start working pen testing. You don't have to. It could be your very first job. I had a student that was like she was in her late 40s, early 50s. Her kids were in college. She'd had like a computer science degree, never worked a technical job in her life. And she ended up getting her very first technical job or security job was working as a pen tester. And don't let people discourage you, because some people are just haters, and then some people just think because they can't do it that you can't do it, or they did it this certain way. You'll find a lot of guys that with my kind of background that are going to tell you, yeah, you have to spend X amount of time as a sysadmin or security before you don't have to do that. Don't listen to that. And one of the biggest things we can do, our biggest things that happen sometimes, we don't want to doubt ourselves and become our biggest blocker. Because when you're a kid, you think you could be an astronaut, a doctor, whatever, and you don't know that you can't do it. And as you go through life, you have failures and self-doubt that helps prevent you from doing what you want to do or getting ahead. And don't let people do that, because we're some of our biggest blockers. Just try it, go for it. Part of this industry is luck. My very first pen testing job, I had AppSec experience, sysadmin experience, but I didn't have the hacking experience. I wanted to be a pen tester. I applied for a pen testing role and I got the job. I mean, the experience I had was running vulnerability scanners and application security. I didn't know how to hack, but I was able to get a job. And that's because, I was able to express my passion, let the hiring manager know that I was doing a lot of learning on my own, because there's some people in the industry that when 5 o'clock comes, they're done learning and they don't want to put any other effort in. And when you're trying to get in the industry, people want people that are willing to learn. And so I think just from my passion and my self-learning helped me get the job. So apply for jobs. I mean, there's no risk to it. And the more attempts you take at applying for jobs, the higher your chance of getting a job.
Well, and I want to say too, like when you were saying, like people telling you, oh, you can't do something or whatever. There was a saying that I had heard somewhere, in the ether. When somebody tells you that you can't do something, they're showing you their limitations, not yours. And that one always like really stuck with me. Like, okay, if you say that I can't do something, okay, well that means that you can't do it. That doesn't mean that I can't do it. You're showing me that you can't do it, so you don't think that I can. And you're just making a poor assumption, and sit back and watch me show you and prove you wrong. Like that's true. Yeah, it was huge for me.
Yeah, that's a good saying. And one of the things I also say too is there's so many things involved with learning too. You take some people who are just more talented and gifted. Some people are just naturally very intelligent and they pick stuff up easy. Maybe they grew up in a home that was conducive to learning, that their parents were educated, college educated, were able to help them out. But then there's other things in there too. Your natural ability, the effort you put into it. So someone that's really persistent and constantly learning is going to get ahead of someone that just won't concentrate and learn. So there's a lot of factors in there. It's kind of like, I had a student one semester come in like the first day of class, said, I want to be at your level, but I want to be able to get there sooner. Can I do that? So yeah, you just have to put in more effort. I spent 6 years as a sysadmin because when I got started, there were pen testing roles, but there weren't that many. And it's one of those things one of those kind of jobs you really didn't know, that most people didn't know about back then. And so, yeah, if you could learn all the sysadmin stuff you need to learn, because it didn't require the 6 years for me to learn what I needed to, because you were into a job a year or two, you're pretty proficient, or you may even peak at your skill set. You might get a little bit better over the years. And so the amount of effort you put into it, just the things you learn. So depends on how much time and effort, and then along the way, as was mentioning the burnout thing, be careful to not get burnout while you're doing that, taking the breaks, because it's really easy to get. I mean, I remember when I was going through the OSCP, my first year as a pen tester, I didn't have any pen testing certs, so I was going through the OSCP and learned a lot. And so I stayed up a lot, spent a lot of hours. I mean, I would be up till, sometimes 5 a.m. in the morning and then have to get a couple hours sleep and then go to work. And I was doing all that. And I was doing that quite a bit. I was pretty obsessed with it. And then as time goes on, just got older, and it's harder to keep that kind of pace up. But, if someone wants to learn, I've seen people, I know a guy from our local community, Commander OPSEC on Twitter. That guy, whenever he got into it, he would work 8 hours and he'd go home and spend 4 hours or even more than that, 4 to 8 hours at home studying each night. And he finally got to the point where he really kind of slowed that down. Now he got into a lot of craft stuff. He's got a 3D printer. He does some woodworking and all sorts of stuff outside of that too. He reached that certain level, and I think he was probably starting to get burnt out and needed some other activities outside of what he's doing. But, you can, the more effort and time you put into it, you can learn quicker. But like I said, you just have to kind of balance and be careful of that. But don't let any, one of the things I like, and whenever I share my story of how I got started, I always share that, I was a pro wrestler before I got into technology. I worked as a CAD draftsman. When I graduated high school in '84, I never thought I'd use my mind for a living. I was a strong guy. I was powerlifting back then, and I never thought I'd be using my mind. I didn't think I could do it. I didn't have, I remember back then, I really didn't take my studies seriously in high school. I wasn't going to drop out. I was going to finish high school, but I really just did enough to get to graduate. I remember when I tried to go to the University of North Texas, I didn't make it in because my ACT scores weren't high enough based on my GPA. My GPA was like a C or C minus because I didn't try in school. If I would have tried, I would have gotten college easier. Who knows what would have happened, but I just kind of summed it up to not being intelligent. And I remember some other jobs that I applied for back then that, like, some algebra skills. So there was a company that made handmade frames for picture frames. And I wasn't able to pass some of the, do some of the trig and algebra required to pass that exam. I remember, I don't know what happened with it, but I actually applied to be a police officer, took the exam in Denton, Texas, and didn't pass the exam. And so, I would have never thought I would do anything to use my mind. But then I went to a trade school, learned AutoCAD. I went back and learned some of the math skills that I didn't learn, prior to that. Once I got into being a sysadmin, I went back to college, and my writing skills weren't that great, but my English composition course was the best thing I took of my associate's degree. So I went back and learned these things. I was able to learn it. And one of the things I like to share is I just thought I was just your typical meathead powerlifter that wasn't smart. And I was able to prove myself wrong. Anyone can learn if they put their mind to it.
I love it. And I think that that's so inspiring too, wherever you are, you can, if it's something that you want, you can make it happen. That's something like my dad would always tell me as I was a kid, if you put your mind to something, then you can do it. And I genuinely have believed it. And I think that the same for other people as well. You'll see just crazy, incredible stories of what people are doing with their careers as well. They put their head down, they get after it, and it happens. You brought up the OSCP, and this has been a conversation in the cybersecurity field for a hot minute, as I'm sure you know.
Yep.
But the OSCP and the new kid on the block, the PNPT. What has your experience with the PNPT been? If you've had any so far, and how do you think it stacks up to the OSCP?
I don't have experience. I haven't taken that exam or even looked at the exam, but based on what I heard, I like the concept. I like with OSCP, you got 24 hours, which is, if you pass it, then it shows that you can learn and that you can build that you have some skills there. It definitely proves it. And, that was the inspiration for, Heath had been through that himself. So I'm sure he's seen what was good in the offensive security stuff, as well as the stuff in the e-learn security stuff, now I&E, seen all those different skills and come up with something he thought was a better solution. So I like the ideas of that. And one of the things, as far as I think the value of certifications is really good for getting your foot in the door. I know a lot of people that don't have certifications that are really good pen testers and hackers, so you don't necessarily have it. The certifications are really going to help you get your foot in the door more, because once you have the skills, hiring managers and different companies, they're not really going to care about certifications unless it's a consulting company. And when you look at some of the boutique pen testing firms, companies that specialize in pen testing, they've got a lot of people on their team that don't even have pen testing certs, but they're really good. And so most consulting companies use the certifications to say, they're bidding on a project and they're showing all the certifications that their team has. But then the boutique pen testing firms, have some real ninjas, and they're just basically going on the skills of these people writing tools and finding ODAs, creating exploits and all this stuff. So you don't have, but it's, and one of the things I want to share while I'm thinking about it, when you're trying to go through these certifications, or just trying to learn something, make sure you learn it and don't just rush through it to get the certification. Because one of the things, just listening to other people in the community, I know a guy that, our local community, when he became a pen tester, he was working as before he did that, he was working as a reverse engineer. And one of the things he did when he was going through college, I guess, whatever the way traditional colleges usually go, it's you take exams and stuff, and you really don't have to know thoroughly how to do a certain type of programming or whatever. You can get around that. And so he really didn't learn assembly language the way he should have. And then he had to go back and learn assembly language because he kind of rushed through it. And I find myself doing that too. It's a bad habit I have, and I like to share people. I'm too busy looking at the end goal sometimes and not focusing on the learning process. So make sure you're learning, because especially if it's something you're going through college, okay, maybe your art appreciation, that's not going to really help you. Music appreciation, some of these other social type studies, and that thing may not help you in the field. But if you're going to be a pen tester, then pay attention to your coding classes, your security classes, things that you may come back and learn or need to use in your career. Learn it. I mean, I know some of these certifications, like some of the CompTIA certs or question and answer, that you can go through some of these practice test engines, go through practicing and memorize a big portion of it and get through it. Make sure you learn it. If you learn and know the content, I would say if you're going through certifications, use the practice test because you will make sure you get through it, but learn. If you understand the concepts and you come across something that you didn't see a practice question for, you can figure it out on your own, but make sure to learn it. That's a big mistake I see a lot of people make. It's like you're really busting your butt to get through the OSCP. You spend that, you get certified, and maybe you're working in some other area, you're not using those skills and keeping them sharp. 3 or 4 years from now, you're not going to have much left out of what you did in an OSCP. You're going to start over again. So maintain those skills and then learn while you're going along the way. Try to learn the skills. Don't just do the minimum to get through the exam.
I want to make sure we get to some of Parker's questions because he's asking some really good ones in the chat. But just to compliment what you were saying, it was somebody that I was talking to on Twitter, and they said something very similar to that. They were like, make sure that you're learning this stuff because, he goes, I've interviewed people before for positions, and they, their resume looks fantastic. It's, blinged out with all these different certifications and everything. But then when it got down to asking them technical questions about, okay, well, you're faced with this particular situation, how would you handle it? And that person goes, and they have a brain fart. They don't know how to go about answering. And he goes, well, you have, the OSCP or, whatever. And the guy goes, yeah. And he goes, then you should be able to answer this question without hesitation. You should know it. And he didn't because, again, he didn't take the time to learn it. He just memorized, did the stuff on the exam, and then called it quits. And probably, like you were saying too, never kept those skills sharp and just, lost them. But yeah, it's man, is it crucial to make sure that you know that stuff, because if you get into like a technical interview, they will literally just run all over you.
And just kind of one thing to tell people too is, take this serious, because if you get that certification, you want it to be worth something. If you're memorizing stuff, well, OSCP, it's a hands-on pen test. You have to hack into stuff. But if you do things, I don't know, it's your best interest to best represent the certification, because what happens over time is if a bunch of people don't take it seriously, don't keep up the skills, they can end up devaluing a certification, because then people are going to say someone with the CH don't know this. You're going to devalue the certification. There was a time before offensive security had people start doing their exams on camera and proctored, that there were companies that were offering to take the test for people. And it was a good thing the offensive security stepped in and did something, because if they hadn't done anything, that cert would have been so devalued and wouldn't have been, worth what it is today, if they hadn't stepped in and did something like that. So yeah, we definitely want, if you got a certification, do what you can to help maintain the value of that certification, because you don't want someone to say, yeah, people with a certification don't know what they're doing. And,
Yeah. I mean, 1,000%. It's on people taking like a test for someone. I feel like that's just something you hear about, like in school even, but I learned last year that like people having somebody else interview for a job for them was a thing that happened. I had no idea. It blew my mind. I was like, how in the world does that even work? Because then even then, day one, you show up and they're like, who are you? Like, logically, how does that make any sense? And that it's kind of like one of those things that might follow you through your career. Like, people will probably remember that, right?
Yep. So. And if you ever got caught in something like that, and that's kind of crazy too, because I've heard of people, having someone else. But one of the things, this gym where I work out at, there was a guy that went through a coding boot camp, one of those 24-week or 12-week courses. I think it's 24 weeks where they go through, take you from zero to be able to program. But on like interviews, they sit there and give you like a headpiece or, a headset while they're talking in your ear while you're getting answered questions during virtual interviews, and they're answering the questions. But the thing is, what happens when you show up the first day of work or, that first week of work and you can't figure anything out?
Yeah, right? Like, there's no substitute for just possessing the knowledge and the confidence that you have the knowledge, right? Like, it just 10 out of 10. It is much better. Make mention some questions by Parker Dot, and as soon as we'll ask these, we'll also get this giveaway running as well. But his first question, what do you think is the hardest part about being a prominent personality within the community? And this, not to like direct your answer, but I feel like this kind of ties into burnout as well, going into last year as well.
Yeah, the burnout can kind of affect that. But one of the things I'd say probably the hardest part is just trying to maintain your reputation, keep your cool, because sometimes you may have someone troll you or they start some crap like I had in 2020. One of my former students was retired LA law enforcement, and he passed his OSCP, and I'd sent out a tweet trying to help him find a job. And I had someone flaming me for trying to help a former law enforcement officer, get in the industry. And I kind of said, John's a good guy. He's not like what the bad stereotype you see of some law enforcement. He's nothing like that. He's a good guy. Other people kind of chimed in and said, yeah. And this guy just kept on going and stuff and was dogging the military and police officers. And it's really hard to keep my cool, because Phil of 10 years ago, when he did that, what I would have said is, okay, you're following Mubix and Dave Kennedy, and you follow them. Those guys are former Marines. So if the military is so bad, then look what these guys do. They're doing more than what you're doing. And, you follow them, they follow you follow each other, and you're going to put down the military. But I didn't. It was really hard not to say anything. I had like a direct message group with some friends, and I was going into it to vent because it's pissed me off, because I just try to help someone find a job. And so you just really have to be careful. And I just even learned past that. I don't even respond to them. I had actually Tim Medine from Red Siege actually chimed in to take up for me and stuff. I was just trying to, because it's too easy. I've seen other people get on there and they respond back or they say something and, they cause all these troubles for themselves. In some cases, people don't want to have anything to do with them in the industry. They just kind of make themselves look bad. I mean, it's just, any of us at our worst moment, people will not like us. At our best moment, everyone likes you. But if you just look immature and all this stuff, it's not a good look, and you just want to avoid that. That's probably, I'd say, one of the biggest things is just trying to maintain, you really have to think about what you're tweeting and stuff. You just have to really be careful, because otherwise it's just all the hard work you put into it can be destroyed in just a single tweet or the way you respond to someone.
Well, and I want to say too, and I know this has probably been said a couple times even on Twitter, I want to preface by saying, like, we're not like a gang or anything. Like, we're not going to gang up on you and beat you up or anything if you say stuff like this. But if you're trying to get a job and you start going after people that are what you would label as popular in the industry, other people that are popular in the industry that have other connections see this stuff.
Yep.
And if they see that, you're literally putting, you're already putting a bad vibe on your name out there. So if you go to look for a job and, sometimes employers will go and check your social media accounts, they see you're starting to say stuff like that that's negative and everything, it might, not saying it will, but it might or could be a deterrent as to whether or not you get the job.
Oh, yeah. And one of the things I'll say, I'm not even going to name any names, but there was someone that was really prominent in the cybersecurity industry. And what kind of happened was, and I'm glad that we're more inclusive, but this person really wasn't big on being inclusive for like women and stuff. And the guy was misogynist, and he just had a bad reputation, and some things happened, and you just don't hear anything about the guy anymore. Yeah. I mean, he did it to himself, but he, instead of apologizing or whatever, he just fought back and hurt his reputation and just really hurt the guy. I mean, you just can't do that stuff. I mean, it's just like all it takes is one thing, and, things change. Things are going to evolve and change from where we're at now. You just have to evolve with it and be open-minded, and people that aren't willing to evolve and keep an open mind are just going to, they're going to make themselves obsolete.
Other And then I think, because I know we're getting kind of close to the end here, and I know Caleb's going to go and charge his computer real quick. The other question that Parker had asked was, if you had to start your career over, what's the first thing that you would do? Like do differently, I guess, than what you did initially.
If I could have started, and this is like back to my AutoCAD days, if I would have known anything about, I would have liked to have known about, IT or something like that, and started out sooner in IT, maybe went to college for IT or something along those lines, and got in sooner.
That's the only, I think a lot of people would, like, especially that are in the field, would be saying the exact same thing, is like, I wish that, and I can even speak on this personally because I feel like I, kind of got into it a little later than I would have preferred. Like, I'm just now, kind of starting my cybersecurity career, and I'm 31 years old, so it's like, man, I really wish that instead of having initially tried to go for physical therapy and working on cars and all this other stuff, that I would have, when I was 20 years old, started working in IT and everything. And then maybe I would have been, further along in my career than I currently am.
Hey, lost the mute button there for a second. Sorry, I had to plug my computer in. If you were watching, Parker previously offered a giveaway for the Hacker Blueprint. So put hashtag powerlifting. That's a good one. Hashtag powerlifting down in the comment. I feel good about these hashtags sometimes. I don't know why. And you will enter into that giveaway. We will find a winner here in just a moment.
Exclude me.
Parker, actually, speaking of Parker, he has another interesting question. If you were to start your career over, wait, you just asked that.
Yeah, I just did that. You did ask another one, though.
My bad. Yep. Do you think with increased move to remote work, do you think this will be a bigger issue?
Can Do you think, with moving to increase?
I think it was in reference to the certifications and everything, and people like having those, but not necessarily having the knowledge. Parker, if you can in chat, can you correct me or kind of elaborate on that? I know it's one of those things.
Like, oh yeah, I think. Yeah, that kind of, I think, yeah, based on what our conversation was, yeah, I think that will be a bigger issue, because one of the things we did mention is how someone was doing a virtual interview and then someone's, yeah, I think there's a lot more chances of that, more risk of that happening. And one of the things too is like offshore work staff too. I know some guys, this company I was working at, they they were interviewing some people and they could tell in the background that they were looking on a computer and stuff, because, they weren't there in front of them. So it's easier for someone to cheat. And then it seemed like they were getting some questions fed to them because this person was Googling the same things that they were asking the guy that's interviewing and saw where they were getting the information from. So yeah, being remote, I think there's a more opportunity for people to cheat.
Yeah. It's how does remote work adjust or change pen testing? Have you noticed it impacts kind of like the how a business is arrayed and kind of the threat landscape, or is it kind of less of an impact?
I think honestly, it's going to help companies better, because if you were going to have someone come on site to do an internal pen test, you've got to get them a temporary badge. You got to have someone to escort them in and out of the building, around the building, set them up with a desk, make sure that the network jack is live so they could use it. So there's a lot of logistics that goes into that, plus the travel expenses to send someone on site. You can send a Dropbox out instead, and you get the price of shipping instead of the cost of airfare, hotel, and food. And so I think it's a lot more, I think it's better. What's happened over the years, a lot of times with consulting, people wanted consultants to show up. Some of the people are more old school, think you got to see the person. And I don't think that, so yeah, definitely. I think it's gotten better. It's just showing people that it can be done without having to have someone on site. And it's having more companies do those remote capabilities.
Gotcha. Yeah. You mentioned, consulting, and I've heard, actually took this from your interview with Dave Kennedy on the Hacker Factory. He mentioned that consulting really is like one of the best things that you can do as an incoming cybersecurity professional. And that, I feel like that kind of like resonated with me. I was like, ooh, okay. What do you think about that? And, what are some things that, incoming cybersecurity professionals can do to really get that leg up long-term through their career?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you can go to work as a consultant, the first 5 years of my career were spent as a consultant. And I know basically, like being an internal resource, like where I work now, a lot of the people I work with don't have the opportunities to do all the kinds of pen testing that I did as a consultant. It's constantly different environments. If you're an internal pen tester, basically, external pen tests, with a third-party consulting company, then, you can't really, you have to kind of limit the hours because the cost. If you have an internal resource, you can sometimes test longer. But as far as for me, like where I'm at now, a pen test that I would have 2 weeks to 4 weeks to do as a consultant, I'd only have 1 week to do that same amount of work. So I was doing a lot more work, a lot more environments. So I think it's a good opportunity to learn. But I think if you're not in that type of situation, then you're going to have to do more to learn on your own. You got to do more learning, self-education. Hopefully your company's got a training budget. If they don't, there's some low cost and free things out there that you can do to learn. So that's how you kind of have to make up for that if you're not getting to start out as a consultant.
Gotcha. And kind of on the low to no cost options as well, educational options, what are some recommendations that you have for people that are interested in pen testing?
For like some of the low cost stuff, you've got the Cyber Mentors courses. You have XSS Rats courses out there. NahamSec has some courses on Udemy. Rana Khalil has some really good stuff. If you're on her YouTube channel, she goes through the Portswigger Web Application Security Academy. She goes through all the different, it's cool. So one of the things I'd recommend, if you want to learn web app pen testing, I would go through Portswigger's Web Application Security Academy and use Rana's YouTube videos, because not only does Rana show you how to do it with Burp Suite, she shows you how to write Python scripts. So she goes a step further. So if someone's really wanting to learn how to web app pen test, I would really recommend going out and get that Burp Suite certification, go through the Web Application Security Academy content, and then you've got Rana's videos to kind of supplement that, and then the actual labs to work on hands-on. So I think that's, that's a free resource there. The Portswigger Burp Suite certification is like $99, which is cheap compared to all the other certifications.
Yeah.
And as far as learning, Ron is a really good teacher and the videos are good. Plus the people that create the content for Portswigger, for, the Burp Suite folks, one of those guys is the author of the Web Application Security Hacker's Handbook. And so that's like the Bible of pen testing, like one of the go-to resources. And so you've got the people that created that. Sometimes when you get courses, like I mentioned before, on Udemy or YouTube, you may not know that person's background. They may be telling you things wrong. I mean, you may not be a good resource, but when you got, Portswigger's courses on there, it's legit stuff and it's good stuff.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, there's, it feels like 2022, there's more opportunity than ever for people to break into this field and to really be able to do that on their own. Would you say that that's a true statement?
What was that again?
Just that 2022 is like probably one of the best opportunities for people to break into pen testing on their own, without having to go through like a really expensive, sponsored structure through a company or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. So good stuff. Everybody, last call for hashtag powerlifting for this excellent giveaway courtesy of Parker Dot. Thank you again, Parker, for that. We will collect names and we will draw names. Sir, I noticed a million Dr. Pepper signs in the background, and I've always been so curious because I've seen them in the streams. And I'm like, this is an awesome sponsorship that you have. Congratulations. That is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it would be nice. Because actually my wife's a Dr. Pepper collector, so she's got Dr. Pepper machines, cans, bottles, signs, clocks, just about everything and anything you can think of.
Your wife sounds like my dad, but my dad with like Pepsi stuff, because he actually used to work for Pepsi. And man, like where we lived, like a couple houses back in the basement, if you walk down there, I mean, there were like bottles that were unopened that still have pop in them, and they're like super old-fashioned labels and everything. Like he was ridiculous with them.
Yeah, she kind of started out as a kid. She found a bottle somewhere, a Dr. Pepper bottle, liked it, and she liked the drink, and she just started collecting stuff. I mean, she's got like 2 machines upstairs. We got one in the garage, one on loan to a friend of the family. Okay. So it's like a lot of. We actually one time drove from Dallas to Chicago one weekend to pick up a Dr. Pepper machine that she bought on eBay.
Worth
That's
it?
dedication.
Yeah, it was okay. And I was younger then, so the road trip wasn't so bad.
My grandparents used to have like a really old like Coca-Cola machine, and like same thing. Like they had the empty bottles, but they also had some like full bottles. And I'm pretty sure they were so old that some of those ingredients are actually illegal.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, the old Coca-Cola.
Yep, the old Coca-Cola. The old Coca-Cola. Gotta love Coke.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, that would be the ultimate energy drink back then. Huh?
Oh yeah. Oh man. You gotta keep drinking though. You gotta keep drinking. It's like the brand loyalty of like a completely different kind. Like you have to keep drinking. You cannot stop drinking.
Yeah, they're probably disappointed when they took that ingredient out, because they probably, had a more loyal customer base.
Sales plummet.
Yeah, man. Well,
more habit forming than usual.
Yeah.
Maybe someday we'll get back to those ingredient days, but I don't know. That's dark. Anyway, let's do this giveaway. So we have, I'll do one last check here in the chat. Not seeing anybody. Last call. Spinning.
Really?
Yeah. Man, next time. But L wins. Congratulations, L. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. If it is not a silent E, I'm a goober. So please hit up Parker on Twitter. He can hook you up. Thank you again, Parker, for that. What an awesome thing to do. Man, so someone actually just made a comment that had me thinking here. Do you ever practice powerlifting with the Dr. Pepper machines?
No.
Not yet.
So I would imagine that would have to be a horrible thing to do. But
that would be more like some kind of strongman type of activity, moving Dr. Pepper machines. Which actually, back to the World's Strongest Man competitions back, it must have been like the 70s or early 80s. They used to have a event where they would carry a refrigerator on their back and run with it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, someone ended up breaking their leg. Actually, it was Franco Colombo, who was a good friend of Arnold's, the Governor, and one of his buddies that actually came over to the U.S. with him, he was competing in the World's Strongest Man competitions, and he was running with the refrigerator and broke his leg. So they took that out of the competition.
I would imagine that would
Shocker.
Not be something that they would. Yeah. Well, I feel like we've learned so much, not only just about your story, but pen testing and powerlifting, and that is exciting. And I thank you again so much for jumping on here. This has just been an absolute pleasure, and I've been looking forward to having you on. Since we originally talked and were able to get this scheduled. So thank you again for jumping on. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you very much, Phil.
And for everybody watching, be sure to tune in next week as well. We got another show coming in next Monday, forgetting what days of the week this is. But with all that, thank you so much for watching. Got more coming on Wednesday, Friday. And be sure to join the Republic of Hackers Discord. Very exciting stuff. That's good stuff. So with that, I will see you all, or we will see you all next time. See ya.